Here we go. We are live, everybody. And welcome to Skip Happens. Of course, I'm a host, Skip Clark, and we bring you unfiltered conversations with some of the most exciting and inspiring voices in country music. Each episode, we skip the small talk. We dive right into the stories that matter, from the trials and triumphs of rising stars to the behind-the-scenes magic. Makes it all come to life, come together. And tonight's guest, the incredibly, I've been kind of, not that I'm, like all over. I'm trying to think of, I had like my mind went blank, but I was on the internet and I was looking up Sarah Harralson and what are you about and who are you? And it's just like, it's blowing me away the more I read about it. It is so cool. But let's get right into it. She's got powerful lyrics, unforgettable melodies. Sarah's journey through music is one you won't want to miss. So like I say, let's get right into it. Sit back, relax, enjoy the flight. So here we go. Sarah, how are you? It's good to see you.
I'm good. Good to see you, Skip. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's, where are you right now? Where are you?
I am in Nashville, like you have on your shirt.
Yeah, I know. This is my, I think they had the benefit, right? Or you could buy the shirts and it went towards, I think it was back the tornado or, tornado or whatever that was a few years ago. But yeah, I've got so much Nashville stuff. I just love Nashville. I'm there quite a bit. Every time I go, I pick up more, bring it home, and now I don't know what to do with it all. I guess I just wear it. But so you're in Nashville. Or what part of town are you in? Are you like right downtown? Are you near Broadway, or are you?
I'm in West Nashville,
Okay.
Bellevue, if anyone's familiar. Which is it's like a 20-minute drive to downtown, which is great to go and do gigs, and then come back and get out of the hecticness of downtown. But I love West Nashville because there's so many parks and nature and it's just I've been in many different parts of town during my time in Nashville, but I really love this part of Nashville.
Now that's 20 minutes to get downtown on a good day, because I know the traffic is crazy.
Yeah, on a good day when there's not a whole lot of traffic. So
I love it. I love it. So let's talk about you, though. You've been like writing songs since you were 10. I was reading a little bit about that. Can tell us about the first song you ever wrote and how it influenced your journey as a songwriter?
Yeah, so my parents split when I was around 8 years old,
Mhm.
and I think that's why I started writing music at such a young age because my siblings were much older than me, so they were already out of the house. They were in college, so it was just kind of me and my mom growing up, and I felt like I couldn't really express my feelings about, how I felt about the relationship between my parents breaking up and how, I kind of felt like the odd one out in the family. So I just found music as a way to express my feelings, and songwriting was very therapeutic to me. Some of the first songs I wrote were about, my parents breaking up, or I think I even wrote kind of a love song about how I wish they were back together, or even there was just a simple song I wrote called Somebody. I think I still have the lyrics somewhere, and just about wanting to find somebody like you and have somebody like you and in my life. It's just very basic things, but when I look back at it, I'm like, yeah, you can tell a 10-year-old wrote this, but at the same time, you can tell like what I was going through at that time. So I'm so glad I had songwriting in my life at an early age.
Do you have sisters?
I do, yeah. I have a sister and a brother.
Okay.
And as I mentioned, they're much older than me. Like there's a 16-year and a 13-year age gap. So they were way out of the house when I was growing up. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Wow. So, I mean, the reason I ask is I have daughters and their mother and I had split up. Mm-hmm. And I think it was pretty hard on them, not understanding the whole situation. And they want to be with their mom, but they want to be with their dad and all that. But for you to use music as that escape to, kind of write about it and sing about it, even though you were 10, 11 years old, I think that's pretty cool. Your grandpa was a musician, right? Your grandfather?
He was, yeah. So, I was born in Alabama, and then, when my parents split, I moved with my mom to Knoxville, to East Tennessee, and that's
Mhm.
where, her parents and a lot of my family lived. My granddad was a bluegrass musician in Knoxville. He was always playing his
Love it.
accordion, so I was always around music growing up, and, even though he was the only musician, I mean, my mom played a little bit of piano, but she was always listening to music, to pop and rock, and my dad would listen to country, so I was around all sorts of genres growing up. So, my family and my granddad really encouraged me to pursue music.
Love it. I love it. And how long have you been in Nashville now, Sarah?
About 11 years, after I graduated high school in Knoxville, I moved to Nashville right away, went to Belmont, got a music business degree,
I was
and have
gonna
been
ask
here
if you did that.
since.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, now, I think it's good that you got the business degree because doing what you're doing, being an independent artist, I know you're working through grassroots for the radio promotion and doing things like this, but to have that background in business so you can, there's that whole other side that I think people don't realize. Yes, you're an artist.
Right.
Yes, you're a songwriter. Yes, you're a singer. But there's all that other side. I mean, the money's got to be taken care of, and you got to do things. It's a business. Let's just say, hey, it's your business. So
Absolutely, and I think so many artists, and especially independent musicians, don't really know the business behind the
right.
industry, and I think now it's more important than ever to know what you're getting into, what's going on with streaming, where we're going next with
Mm,
music.
mm,
So I'm so glad I decided to learn more about the business side of the industry. And I've had jobs on the business side of the industry right out of college to support my dreams while I was pursuing music. So, it's been so beneficial. I also studied production, and I'm so glad I did that. I love making music too, so I'll produce a lot of my own songs too.
And I can tell because it looks like you're in somewhat of a home studio. I mean, almost
Yes.
looking at the same thing that I have here. So, and that is, I don't know about you, but when we were talking just a few minutes ago before the camera went on, the lights and all that, and this is like my studio. This is where I go to get away from it all. This is
Yeah.
where I go to play. This is where I go to talk to great people like you, and kind of share our stories and all that. But nothing, knowing the production side of it, and what you want for a sound, and you can pretty much try to piece it together. Now, what do you use? Do you use Pro Tools?
I use Pro Tools and Logic.
Uh,
So I love Logic for track building, and then I love Pro Tools more for mixing. So kind of best of both worlds.
yeah, so if you don't know what we're talking about, it's the digital workstation. That's where you go, and the computer. That's where your voice goes, and that's where the music all comes together. Lay down several tracks, and you make it sound the way you want to make it sound. That's what we're talking about. I know that. Sarah knows that. But anybody watching this might go, "What the heck are they talking about?" But no, that's it. So that's cool. Hey, I see you worked with Johnny Garcia a little bit, and
I
Scotty,
did.
and you
Yeah.
had yeah, Scotty Schultz, right? Scotty Schultz.
Yeah, he was one of the first people I worked with when I moved to Nashville. I had already released my first EP and was working on some more demos while I was at Belmont. And I think it was around maybe 2015. He heard my demo of my song Watered Down Whiskey, and he really liked it. And he was starting his own publishing company. And for those of you who don't know, he's the drummer for Shooter Jennings
Mhm,
and has his
mhm.
own recording studio now. So he's like, "Hey, I would love to sign you to a single song publishing deal with Watered Down Whiskey. I'd love to track it in my home studio and see what we can do with it." And so we worked really well together. And then I ended up doing my whole EP, Watered Down Whiskey, with Scotty. And that relationship and recording that EP alluded to me working with Johnny Garcia actually.
That's
So
huge.
one of the songs on that EP, Radio Static, I wrote that with Johnny, Brian Carper, and my friend Justin Lilly. So Justin Lilly, I was already writing with him. He's from Texas, and one night he said, "Hey, I've been writing with this guy, Johnny Garcia. He's from Texas like me, and is guitar player for Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood, but he also has his own publishing company. Do you want to come with me and join the write?" And I said, sure, I would love to. So that night we met and we wrote Radio Static. I loved it so much, I put it on my Watered Down Whiskey EP that Scotty produced the next year. And I had not really talked to Johnny since then. About a year went in between from writing the song to recording it.
Mhm.
Um, and then in the process of us finishing up Radio Static, all we needed was lead guitar on it. And that week when we were trying to wrap the song up, I actually ran into Johnny at an event on Music Row. And I'm like, "Hey, I don't know if you remember me, but we wrote the song Radio Static." And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I love it." He's like, "I'd love to put lead guitar on it if you don't
Oh,
already have the
wow.
guitar tracked on it." I said, "That's perfect. We need the guitar on it." So he did the guitar and Radio Static. And then we started working more closely
Mhm.
together. We did some shows together. And then I did a artist development deal at his publishing company at the time, which led to us writing a lot of songs together. I released Put a Rock on This Rolling Stone, which was written and produced with him. And so many other songs on my Whiskey History album were
God, I love
produced by Johnny.
Yeah, you've got Johnny involved. I mean, that's so big right there. That's huge. That's huge. That now Watered Down Whiskey was your second EP, correct?
Yeah, that was my second EP. And then, the great thing about Nashville, I think, Scotty was busy with Shooter Jennings, Johnny's, busy playing guitar with Garth and Trisha, but many of these musicians in Nashville, they're so willing to
Mhm,
help other artists, work with other independent artists, and that's what I just love about the community in Nashville.
mhm. So you are not only a singer-songwriter, but you're also a producer, which we see that and we hear that. How does your approach change when you're getting your own music versus working with other artists or producers?
Yeah, I think most of the songs that I record and cut have been written or co-written with me.
Mhm,
So it was an interesting case with Johnny because we co-wrote a lot of the songs that he was producing. So as we were writing, he was like, "I kind of have an idea in mind for the production already." And it's a little different now. If take for instance my single Denim, I wrote that
mhm.
with my label mate Delaney Ann, and then when my producer Dale Pinner was producing it, he's like, what is your vision for this?" Um, so that was more, we had to discuss vision and what everyone was hearing and what we wanted the song to be. So it's very different when the producer didn't take part in the writing
Mhm.
process, but I love being part of both processes.
Gosh, absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit about Blue Ribbon? I was reading about that and what it was about, but I want you to tell everybody what that's about.
Yeah, so that's off my album Outside the Lines. I produce many of the songs on that album myself. And Blue Ribbon was a very special song because it's about my mother and her fight with colon cancer.
Mhm.
And I just wrote it about her fight with it. And it was a song that, kind of says, you're strong for what you're going through, kind of a mantra for any person going through a hard fight like that. And um, I was so happy because I was able to get it produced and have my mom hear the song
Mhm.
once it was done. And then unfortunately, she passed away a few months after that.
Oh, I'm so
But
sorry.
in her honor, I teamed up with the Colorectal Cancer Alliance and released the song. And many of the patients in the CCA group submitted a video, so you can see the video on my YouTube, and they're just holding up signs with how long they've been fighting colorectal cancer and just their journey. And so I just wanted to use the song as a way to spotlight people going through the the same fight and just let
Absolutely.
people know going through cancer that they're not alone.
I have a son-in-law that's going through it right now. Not colon
Yeah,
cancer, but it's still cancer, and we all know it sucks either way,
right.
regardless. But that's very strong of you, and that you're so blessed to be able to do that, and for a good reason. And God bless you for that. That's pretty phenomenal. Just recently, you signed like this huge deal. Am I right to say that? I'm looking at my notes here. A multi-year deal with a publishing and entertainment company, and you started a podcast.
I did. I have a lot of different things going
Wow, I love that. I
going
didn't
on
know
right
that.
now.
I just looked down on my notes here. I'm like, oh, she started a podcast.
Yeah, yeah, so in May of last year, I signed with Synapse Publishing and
Yeah.
Entertainment, so I've been working with them. My first single with them was, Denim. I love working with a female-owned, company now, and, in addition to that, as you said, I have my own podcast. It's called Mind Your Music Business, so you can hear it anywhere you get your podcast, and each episode, I just interview someone different from the music industry. So it kind of
Oh my
takes
gosh.
people, it gives people insight into different roles in the music
Mhm.
industry that maybe they weren't aware about or maybe they're curious about.
So, like the business side of things. That's
Yeah, but not necessarily. Like, I had a producer on my podcast. I, will have a mixing and a mastering engineer, and then on the other hand, I have, like, a tax accountant to give tips for
oh
musicians
my
for
god.
their taxes. So just a little bit of everything in music.
And Sarah, whatever gave you the idea to do that? Is something you have always wanted to do, or just because you see all the different angles and you like to share that?
It's funny because I didn't really think about doing a podcast. Because if you asked me, like, 2 years ago, I would say, "Well, everyone has a podcast, so
True.
I don't know why I
But
should."
but everyone
Uh,
is different. Everyone is different.
everyone is different, everyone has
Yeah.
something different to say, and, somehow it just popped into my
Mhm.
mind. I'm like, "What if I called a podcast 'Mind Your Music Business'?" And, you know, I've seen a lot of podcasts where people are always interviewing artists or they're just doing one thing. So
Mhm.
what if I do something different where I interview a different kind of person still related to the music industry every
Great
single episode?
It's a great idea. I know I talk to a lot of artists, but still with my podcast here, Skip Happens, every once in a while, I'll just, hey, I'm going to talk to this, maybe this guy that drives a truck. I want to find out,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Every once in a while, I do, like crazy stuff like that. But I love chatting with people like you. A lot of the artists that I have on, I mean, I have a lot of the well established artists, a lot of the independent artists, and a lot of the brand new artists, but everybody
Mhm.
deserves a fair opportunity to to get some exposure and get on the podcast. So
Absolutely.
tell us about denim a little bit.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, Denim is my current radio single. I released it in September of last year under my new label, Synapse Publishing and Entertainment. I co-wrote it with my label mate Delaney Ann, and Dale Pinner Produced it, as I mentioned. He's worked with Nickelback and Loverboy, so it
Mhm.
was a lot of fun to work with him. And he put like a little bit of a rock edge on my country song. But yeah, when I wrote Denim with uh, Delaney, we were like, let's just write a song about denim. We know so many songs have kind of already been done about blue jeans, but let's just make it fun and make it to where this guy's dressing up in suits now. Some girls dressing him up in suits, and he just needs to, get back to what he's most comfortable in, and that's denim. So it's just a
Does it
fun and sassy song.
is it just something you wrote just because, or does it have a personal thing to it?
I think it
Like
was
you knew this
more.
guy that was one way, now he's dressing up all the time.
Yeah, I feel like because we talked about the different angles we could go with it,
Mhm.
and, because some of them have already been done, but then we're like, "No, let's just make it to where, he was wearing denim and the new girls he's with is dressing him up in suits, and he's, like, uncomfortable, and someone just needs to tell him he needs to get back to his
Yeah,
roots and denim."
yeah,
So, yeah, it
exactly.
was just a fun ride, and, then after we wrote it, we're like, "This is catchy, this is
Alright,
fun, we should record it."
I'm gonna play just a little bit of it here. Let's see if we
Yeah.
can. There we go. Can you hear that? All right. This is called
I ain't
Denim.
never seen you like that. Got your hair all combed and slicked back. And you didn't ask, but it's not your style. I ain't never seen you so stressed. Out here like trying to win best dressed. Did she teach you how to tie on that tie? She's ribbon, she's pearls, she's diamonds and curls. Baby, I'm Wrangler, timeless. Ain't nowhere else you can find this. I'm classic, I'm trendy. You pull me away and now you miss me. She can try all she wants to you into that suit. But baby, I'm denim and I look good on you.
Wow, wow, wow. I don't want to spoil it. I want viewers to download this and listen to this and become a new fan of you, Sarah Harralson. This is wow. Yeah, a little edgy. Little
It is edgy, yeah.
I like that. I like that. And well, it does have that rock feel to it as well. But
Yeah, a little bit of country with a little bit of rock, yeah.
nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. So you got Denim that's hitting the radio now. And where do you see yourself in just a few years? Do you think there'll be more after this, obviously?
Yeah, I'm excited to see where Denim's going on country radio. I have been pumping it on radio, and I forgot to mention my husband's a drummer. He played drums on that, so it was so
Love
much
it.
fun just being in the studio with him, recording and coming up with the song. But yeah, I'm excited to see where this leads me in a few years. I'm just, my goal is always to play more stages, meet more people, and I'm already working on new music for the year too. So I'm just excited to release more music and see where music takes me next, because I always say you never know where music is going to take you.
Exactly. What's your husband's first name?
It's Drew Kugler.
All right. So has Drew been playing with you right along drums? Is he like a regular when you go out?
Yeah, so anytime I have a full band gig or we were just in San Diego, I did acoustic guitar and he brought his cajon, so we'll do like stripped down like that too.
Love
So
that.
yeah, he's pretty much always on stage with me. So it's so fun to play together. We've gotten to do the most random gigs together, played in Eastern Europe together. So
Wow.
yeah.
How did you meet Drew? Was it through
So
music?
we met through music. It's
Yeah.
it's weird because we had both been in Nashville for a long time and had some close mutual friends, but had never met each other until we were playing a gig out in Kansas at a festival about 6 years ago, and we were both playing, and he was playing for some of my friends who are artists at that festival, and so we met in Kansas, and then didn't really start dating or know each other until we got back to Nashville. So it was funny how that worked out.
And it's probably a plus because I mean, you both know the business. You know what I mean? It's like it's not like, he's working in an office somewhere and you're an artist. Here, he both knows what it takes, or he knows what it takes. You both know that to make it work.
Absolutely. And I think it's given us both perspective for me to see, the viewpoint from a drummer, from a musician who is, a sideman in a way, because they have to find artists to play with, find someone who they can go on tour with. And, it puts in perspective for him too, what an artist has to go through on the road and everything.
Absolutely. So, okay, you're a singer, you're an artist, you're a producer, you're a wife, you've got so many things going on, and you've even written a children's book.
I have, yeah, another endeavor I've done that I honestly didn't think I'd ever do, or I didn't have an intention to do it really.
Uh-huh. And tell us a little bit about it.
Yeah, so the children's book I wrote is called Turtle Tears. I published it last January. You can find it on my website, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all of that.
Cool.
Yeah, and so we talked about Blue Ribbon and everything my mother went through, and after she passed, that's when I kind of got the idea for the children's book. She loved turtles, and this story came on the news about a turtle and a butterfly and their
Mhm.
symbiotic relationship. And I didn't know this, but turtles excrete salt from their glands, and butterflies get really thirsty. And so they just
Oh,
drink the salt from their glands and kind of help each other out. And I was actually sitting with Drew when this story came on, and he was like, "This would kind of be a good idea for a children's book." I'm like,
and
"Oh,
now
it
you have a
kind of would
children's
be."
book.
Yeah, so I put it like in my notes, and then I revisited it later. I'm like, I started coming up with these ideas for how this could be put into a children's book, and it just developed into a story about an unlikely friendship between a turtle and a butterfly. And it's a great way for kids to see while they're reading this that friendship can help them overcome any type of
Oh my gosh, I
sadness.
love that. I love that. But now I have to ask, you've written a children's book. How does that compare to writing a song?
It's very different, because I've thought in the past, there's many musicians who have written autobiographies and books in addition to their songs. And I think an autobiography would be easier than a fictional book, but I've
Mhm.
always thought how tough it might be to write a fictional book. I just couldn't imagine some of these authors, 400 pages of
Right.
their imagination, a song, you get that done in 3 minutes, a whole story. Um, so it's a little bit easier with children's books since they're smaller, but I had to figure out how to, expand the whole
Mhm,
story
mhm.
start to finish. And so I moved some things around. I had ideas for how I want the illustrations to be, and I worked with a local illustrator, and he basically took my ideas and did an amazing job with the drawings in the book and helped me make my ideas come to life,
Oh
since
my
illustrations are so important in a children's book.
Oh, absolutely. Big time. Big time.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. Do you think you'll ever write another one?
I think so.
Yeah.
Since then, I've actually come up with a couple more ideas for children's books, so I could definitely see myself doing another one.
I love that. You're watching the news and you come up with a children's book idea.
Yeah, you never know.
You never know. And, let's talk a little bit of, get back to the music. Times Square, I was reading in some of the info they sent me that, your music has been featured internationally, including Times Square billboards, a song on Hulu. So I made note here. What does it feel like to see your work reaching such a global audience? And you think about that, that's huge. Huge.
It's pretty crazy, and that's why I always say you never know where music, takes you. You can set goals for yourself and have some sort of idea, but it's kind of cool not, exactly knowing where it's gonna take you, because, if you had asked me 5 or 10 years ago, if I would have known that my song "Snow Globe" would be on a billboard in
Mhm,
Times
mhm.
Square, or, my "Outside the Lines" album would be on a billboard on Sunset Boulevard, it's pretty crazy to believe. And especially not being able to, I wouldn't believe if you said I was gonna be in Eastern Europe doing a whole tour over
I
there. That
know.
was
My
just
God.
wild.
It is the whole, everything just happens so fast and it's so wild. And maybe you got to pinch yourself every once in a while and go, is this really happening? Now, and let me ask, did you go to New York? Were you standing in Times Square waiting for that to come on the billboard? Did you hear it?
I
Did you
wasn't
see it?
standing there, someone sent the footage to me, but it was very cool to see, because I have been in Times Square
Yeah.
before, so I know, like, how wild and crowded
Right.
it
And
is down there.
crazy. And
Yeah.
yeah. Wow. What an experience for that. You're also a member of the Recording Academy, correct?
I am. I've been with them since 2021, so
Mhm.
it's such an honor to be able to submit my work for Grammy consideration.
Yeah. What about this? You talked about 2021, but the world shut down in 2020. And how did you handle that as an artist?
Yeah, it was interesting because at the time I had just finished my single "Put a Rock on This Rolling Stone" with Johnny Garcia, and we had all these plans to release it, and
Mhm.
then COVID hit. And so we're like, well, what do we do now? And then so we waited a few months, and then, summer rolled around, things were looking a little bit brighter. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to go ahead and release this. I think I released it June of 2020.
Mhm.
And I did a music video for it. It was just me in the music video, so I could have a video for it. And it was interesting because at that time, a lot of people had their weddings canceled.
Well,
So,
there you go. Yep.
yeah. So, they were doing Zoom weddings and whatnot, and they were also listening to a lot of wedding playlists. So Put a Rock on This Rolling Stone became really popular around that time for people to put that on their playlist. But of course, during that time, I also couldn't do gigs. All of that got canceled. So that's when I kind of relied more on my production skills. I'm
Mhm.
like, I need to be utilizing these more, taking advantage of it while I'm at,
Mhm.
home for who knows however long. So I kind of invested in better equipment. I
Yeah.
started doing vocals on demos for people. They could hire me to sing on their tracks or do voiceovers for them. So I was just doing all sorts of production work, even mixing songs for people during COVID. So um, I was grateful that I could use my audio and production skills to help
Yeah.
me through that time.
Yeah, and you can see what I'm doing here. This is the reason I do this. Yes, I have the full studio as I told you. I got the voiceover booth. I've got all, voiceover area. Um, but when COVID hit, people stopped coming into the studio. I used to, when artists like yourself would come through on a radio tour, it'd be like, all right, I'm going to get some beer, pizza, and wings. Come on over. We're going to talk about you and your music, and we'll get you on the Skip Happens podcast. Then, bam, COVID hit. I'm like, now what? Well,
Right.
now what is exactly what I'm doing here. I went out, invested in good equipment, made it work. It sounds good. You know what I mean? It just did all that. So it's a positive. I think it was a positive for you in the end with COVID. I think it was a positive for me because I was able to, you know, do this better, I believe. So
Yeah, and it's wild when you think of it, like, we weren't heavily doing virtual interviews
no,
before, and I did so many virtual podcast interviews during the pandemic, and it's still just as popular, so I'm glad we're able to connect better because of it.
yeah, and TV ads. You did some TV work as well. Am I correct by saying that?
Yeah, I got some,
A little bit.
sync placements in recent years, so, recent Hulu show, Living for the Dead, that's
Mm.
Kristen Stewart's show.
Yeah. Yeah.
My song Creature of Habit, I got a placement in that, and my song Get Lost in Some Rock and Roll, that was featured, I think it was in a Norwegian show. So, yeah, just random, little homes that my
Now,
songs found.
and if you don't mind me asking, but this benefits you, if you know what I mean, right? You see a return on that investment. I mean, you're putting your talent out there, you're doing all that. Hopefully, you get something like when you go to the mailbox every day, you have a little something, something there. So I'm just saying,
Absolutely.
got bills
Yeah.
to pay,
Yeah, people don't realize that sync deals
right?
are super important for artists because, with streaming revenue, that's
Hmm.
pennies, but sync placements, you get the upfront fee and then the mailbox money afterward. So it's definitely a big deal.
Absolutely, there's no doubt about that. Um, so you've been on some pretty incredible stages. I'm reading in the bio. Of course, I kind of figured this that you did perform at the Bluebird Cafe and right alongside some big names. What is the most memorable live performance you've had so far?
Yeah, I think the most memorable performance was probably when I got to play with an international symphony in Bulgaria.
Oh my
Um,
gosh.
Yeah, never thought that would happen, and I'll have to tell you the story of how it even came about, of how I got to go to Eastern Europe. As I told you, when pandemic hit, people were
Mhm.
hiring me on different platforms to do vocals on their demos and songs, and I was still doing that, and I think it was beginning of 2023, this musician in Bulgaria, same kind of thing. Hey, I have a song that was a popular hit in Bulgaria in the 90s, but I'm translating it to English and I'm making it country. Will you sing it with me as a duet? I'm like, sure.
All right.
So I recorded my vocals here, and then I sent them over to him, and he had a mixing engineer put it all together. Sounded great. And then he put it out. I didn't really hear anything for a few months. And then I got a message a few months later saying, hey, these Bulgarian news outlets wants to interview you about our song.
Oh, wow.
I'm like, okay. So I did the interview, and they did the little Bulgarian overdubs on my voice to translate for their national news. And
Oh my God, that's so cool.
so cool. And then I find out that this musician who hired me is also a mayor in a town in Bulgaria. And he's putting on this event with this organization, great organization called the America for Bulgaria Foundation. This woman in Chicago just decided to use some of her money to start this organization one day. She gives back to Bulgarians in need in the country. So really great female-owned company, and they were doing their annual show, I think like 10th anniversary on the river in Bulgaria that September. It was in 2023. And so they invited me out there to play. I got to bring Drew, my husband, with me to play drums. And so we made a whole tour out of it in Bulgaria and surrounding countries. And one of the first shows was the show on the river. And I got to sing a few of my songs along the song that I did with that other musician with an international symphony, which is something I never would have guessed would happen. So it was very special.
That had to be such a feeling with the symphony behind you. That is, wow. That's something to be proud of. I can see why that would be one of the most memorable moments in your career so far. And I'm sure you're going to have many more of those. So.
And it's just so cool to see when, people who don't necessarily speak the same language as you, they're just with you, enjoying the music. It's just such a great feeling.
I know. God bless you, man. That is so awesome. Just an accomplishment in itself. You're a big proponent about women in the industry with country music. And talk a little bit about that, because, all right, I'm a guy. I work in radio. I play the hits. And there was a time where 90% of that was male artists. And, well, male artists wearing tight jeans and all this. And very rarely, unless it was a Carrie Underwood at the time, or maybe a Miranda Lambert or somebody like that, and, you didn't hear much. But talk to me from your perspective about women in the industry.
Yeah, it's definitely difficult, and sometimes still difficult to get radio airplay as a woman in country music. And I think it's gotten a lot better over time. But it's not just an artist, but being a female in the music industry, we have to kind of pave our own way and find our own path to get where we need to be. So it shouldn't be such a fight, but I think women are definitely making a better and bigger presence in music now, and especially with producers, because I think a few years ago the statistic was only 3% of producers are female, and that's rising now. There's a lot of more producers that are females now.
And why do you think it was back in the day? Why do you think it was that way, that we weren't getting the women on the radio? We weren't getting the female voices. And there was such great talent out there, even back in the day with the Rebas and the Pam Tillis and all that. Why do you think that was happening? Was it a big boys club? What do you think?
Yeah, it could be that there were more male artists signed, but when I talked to different people about it, I think the theory is that most listeners on country radio are women, And I've heard that a lot of these women would rather hear male voices than female. And that may or may not be true.
Right.
But yeah, I guess it just also depends who the labels are signing too.
Yeah, I guess. Well, I do see there are more and more women coming about it. We get the Megan Maronis and others now, which is
Yeah.
great to see. And I love that. I think it needs to be an equal mix and there's room for everybody. So it's not just the guys. So I love it.
Absolutely. And
Uh,
also speaking of the uh, advocating for women, I'll be a part of a new project this year called Women Behind the Lyrics. It's a documentary, so it's going to be me and 3 other women
mhm.
just on the road touring and just kind of insight about what it's like to be a female musician on the
Yeah.
road.
That would be really interesting. Very interesting. I love
Yeah,
it.
so keep an eye out for
Yeah.
that.
No, I definitely will. I'll definitely do that. If you weren't doing music, what do you think you'd be doing?
I feel like it would still be some sort of creative outlet. I've always loved writing in
Yeah.
general. In high school, I was like on our newspaper team and everything. So if I wasn't doing music, I was always writing about something else. So I feel like it would be like a journalist or some sort of other creative endeavor. It would have to be.
Were you on the yearbook club? Were you one
Yep.
of those putting oh yeah. Oh yeah, I
I
did.
was one of those. Yeah.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. I still have all my yearbooks. As a matter of fact. And I know they had their own little, like where I went to school, they had their yearbook club. So
Yeah, yeah, we had that. I don't even are yearbooks still a thing? I feel like they'd
you
probably
know,
be all digital now.
Sarah, I have no idea. Probably all digital. You're right. You're right. I don't know. That's a good question, but you never know. I get the feeling that things are going backwards here a little bit. So who knows? Who knows? Um, so what was I going to ask you? I just had a brain fart. It just collaborating with somebody down the road. If you could collaborate with anybody right now, I mean, who would that be? Dead or alive? Who would you, if you could?
I think my top answer has always been Brandy Clark, and
Mm,
she's just always been one of my favorite songwriters in Nashville. I love the way she tells stories and her lyrics, and I think it would just be amazing to write a song with her.
I love that. I love that. And Brandy is so good. I've actually met Brandy and
Yeah.
had a conversation with her, and she's just one hell of an artist, a
Yeah.
person, just awesome all the way around. Now we played Denim a few minutes ago. That's the latest project that's coming to radio. It's already at radio, and thanks to Grassroots. And by the way, hats off to them because Nancy Tunick and the whole crew that she has, phenomenal, phenomenal. And I tell every artist that has them, I know other people are probably going, wow, there's other people besides Grassroots. But yeah, you're right. But you know what? Grassroots is made up of people. They're musicians and they're radio people.
Mhm.
And they bring it all together and they make it work and they coach you. They tell you what you need to do. A lot of it you probably already know, but still just make sure you're on the right path and they do it right. So
Yep, whole team is great.
Grassroots. I love them. Love them. Love them. I love RJ. Everybody's just, I worked with RJ in radio for a while. So all that is
Nice.
just really phenomenal. Phenomenal. But so if somebody wanted to go on and get Denim, they want to look you up, social media, I would assume just about everywhere. Maybe not TikTok now, but just about everywhere.
Well, TikTok's back up, so you can still find me there. It's up for now.
Did you hear talking about TikTok? Because you can't go to either the Google store or the Apple store to download it. It's not there. But phones where it's already installed are going for like $10,000. Like if you want
Wow.
to get a used phone and you want that TikTok app. Yeah, I'm not kidding. I saw it in my radio prep the other day.
I didn't know
Nuts.
that.
Yeah.
That's good to know.
I know. I don't know if it's good to know or not, but it's just one of those things. So tell me before we say goodbye, tell me what is a day in the life of Sarah Harralson like?
Yeah, it's constantly changing. Like right now, I'm gearing up for some more shows. I just got back from doing some shows in San Diego. So
Mhm.
right now, I've been doing a lot of writing with other writers. recording. I'll do pre-production work here. I'm doing that for my next project, which will be announced soon, and I'll be back in the studio in a couple months recording that, and then just doing gigs as well. So the thing I love about being a creative is no day is the same.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
You don't want it to be, you know, the same thing over and over again. So
Right. And then, yeah, you can find me at Sarah Harralson at Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and sarahharralson.com for my website.
I love it. And I hope you enjoyed this interview with Sarah Harralson. It's my podcast, Skip Happens Podcast. I'm a radio guy here in Syracuse. But we do this and we bring these artists that you don't hear about every day to the forefront because they deserve to be heard. They deserve to be seen. And also, I don't know where you're listening or watching this, but make sure you get the word out about denim. It's out there. If the radio station isn't doing it, it's a good idea to say, hey, you know, I saw this on this podcast the other night and I really like the sound and I think you guys should be playing it. Doesn't hurt to do that. So that's all I'm saying. That's it. That's it. That's it. I love it. Sarah, you're awesome. Thank you so much for taking the time out on a nice warm Nashville night. No, we were talking about that earlier. I mean, I'm in the Northeast and today our high was like 26, but I think I told you I had a friend in Pensacola and with all this, you know, this is being done while we're having this polar vortex. So down the beaches of Pensacola had snow on them. They got like 8.8 inches of snow in Pensacola. That has never, ever, ever happened before. And my buddy told me it was like 18 degrees there yesterday. So
yeah, it's wild. It's been like in the 20s here in Nashville, but we don't have the snow. So,
and hopefully in just a few weeks, they have the country radio seminar. I don't know if you pop in for that at all, but of course, I've been going to that for well over 20 years. And,
you know, I was going to ask you if you were going to be there in a few weeks.
Yeah, if you're looking for Skip, just go down the hall of the Omni to Bar Lines, take a left, and the first school on the right at the bar. That's where I have all my meetings. So, no, yes, I will be there, and I'd love to say hello. If you're going to be there, definitely.
Perfect. Yeah, I'd love to meet you in person.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to meet you and your husband. And, you know, you have my cell number. I put it in an email. So you can always just text hey, we're in the Omni. Why don't you stop down? We'll get a drink or something. So that's cool.
Yeah, perfect.
Sarah Harralson, check her out. Just do the Google search and everything's going to come up. Latest music, it's at Radio Now. And I'll say it again, it's Denim. Make sure you go out and get it. And thank you for watching Skip Happens tonight. Make sure you subscribe. It's the Skip Happens podcast on YouTube. So thanks for watching, everybody. Sarah, thank you again for coming out.
Skip.
You're so awesome.